Have you guys thought about that? Did you ever read old romance comics? Is the romance aspect of it something that you think about while you're making the book?
Yes, I read Mr. Miracle, which is another romance comic. I gotta get out of this genre. I think sometimes when you try to write in all these different voices. I mean, Batman's in all sorts of different genres. Where sometimes we're in space, sometimes we're in sci-fi, sometimes we're in streets. But at the end of the day, you end up writing your own life into it. And I feel just at this point in my life, I'm not going to live insanely happily married to the love of my life. Don't tell her I said that. But I feel like what you're seeing in the comic is sort of me talking about that relationship and how important it is to me for and even though I try to get away from it, it just sort of soaks me. You can't get away from you. To me, it's not a romance comic.
No, yeah. You have done so much work in so many different parts of comics, and I know you've done some superhero stuff, but I mean, is superhero something that attracted you, or was it more just superhero story in some specific way because of some different elements, character elements, stuff like that?
I've been a huge superhero fan since I was a little kid. I get bored really, really easily working in one genre, and so I like to bounce around. I want to try out things, and this was just something I've never done, and jumped on it because I want to be able to get better as I go, and I think that entails trying all the stuff.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, Joelle, about, and then I comment on this too, but I mean, I feel like one of the fun things about Catwoman is that she is the most fashionable superhero character ever, and that we've seen many different Catwoman costumes over the years, and more than one of them have been classic, which I think is really hard to do. I mean, you guys even an issue lately where you played with that about here's her in different eras and things like that. I mean, is that something that you've been looking at? Is it kind of the fashion sense? If you can distill the fashion sense of something Kyle's woman to be and play with those elements?
Yeah, and I think I attempted to do that with the dress, and just sort of this is formal. I've always been fascinated with her, and I do think she's fashionable, with it, I guess, in terms of fashion. So I tried to keep up with that.
Jumping on the fashion thing, I mean, I know that before we get to the wedding and stuff, you're doing an arc with Tony that's going to be coming up, and one of the headlines that has been popping up around this is that Michelle Pfeiffer movie costume kind of being visually part of this. How did that become part of the conversation, I guess, as you were rolling all the other pieces together?
To me, I mean, I'm of the generation where that was almost my first exposure to Catwoman. I mean, I think probably the 66 series kind of ingrained in us all because of reruns, in terms of it's sort of entering my actual conscious brain. That was when I closed my eyes and saw Catwoman. It was that Michelle Pfeiffer, and there's so much I love in that performance in that movie. And do we have to fight now is one of the best lines in Batman history. But it's not in continuity. That's a quick costume. So I just did this issue where we had every Catwoman costume, and the whole point of the issue was, the more she changes, it's sort of the more she's sort of being herself. And but I couldn't do that one, so I found a way to put it in this Tony Daniel issue. And it helps when you're working with Tony Daniel, who draws everything so beautifully. It's just if you give him something as classic as that, he's going to turn it, he's going to modernize it and make it awesome.
I feel like somebody said this the other day on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who it was so I could cite them. They were saying, I'm watching Batman Returns for the first time, and the most amazing thing in it is that the actual scene where you watch Selena Kyle sew a costume, and it's not just boom, there's she does it. And now we're in this era of cosplay, and people are making this that is a relatable aspect, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to put that together,
Well, I think I'm going to give away a little spoil, but that costume, it's also part of a joke because Booster makes it for her. That's complicated how that happens.
Sure.
But it's also a sign Booster never does anything competently, so it was always it fit the story perfectly.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys are getting to this point where we're inching up on 50. It's going to be a milestone issue. It's going to be a wedding issue. I feel like each of those two categories has a place in superhero comics. Anytime there's a milestone issue, some big thing happens. And from Reed and Sue getting married in the Fantastic Four to Lois and Clark getting married in the 90s or whatever, I think there is it's a smaller tradition, but a tradition of wedding comics. Have either of you guys looked at past examples of that as you've been working on that issue?
Yeah, I have. I looked a lot about the Spider-Man wedding and sort of how big they went with that. And that Fantastic Four wedding with Stan and Jack knocking on the door and all that stuff. Yeah. When I was a kid, man, I loved that soap opera wedding aspect. I remember Louise Simonson when she Cyclops and Jean Grey got engaged, like one of the biggest con moments as a kid. So and that. The soap opera aspect of comic books interests me greatly, and I like looking into it.
When you're talking about drawing this issue, I mean, what are the kind of visual influences that are coming, not just in terms of the dress in that, but in terms of, I mean, weddings can be ridiculous and ornate and big or very pared down. I mean, how are you kind of visually stylizing that whole scene, the whole milieu?
Whenever Tom gives me a script, it seems really sparse, but the emotional impact is always the driving force behind it, and it just kind of sets the tone for how I go about drawing it. It's so well thought out and crafted as far as the emotional tone. So I just kind of go off of what he's giving me and then kind of draw from there.
Yeah. Have you had that weird experience? I've talked to other artists about this where they create a design for something, a character, a costume, and then somebody walks up to their table in Artist Alley wearing that. I mean, are you anticipating a wedding dress to come marching down the aisle in Artist Alley?
She's going to look like the most fabulous person on the floor. Yeah, I look forward to it. I want to see it.
We saw a tattoo of her Catwoman desert design. Someone had it tattooed on their leg just on Twitter.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Both Batman and Catwoman.
Oh my god.
That's dedication. That's
I don't know about that.
elevating. Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want to. So it's hard to sometimes ask questions, be like, "Well, what happens in the story?" or whatever. But the aspect that really sticks to me on this is there's been this back and forth, and people reading the story and saying, "Okay, is this going to fall apart? Is this going to stick?" And it seems like it's hard to deliver, especially in superhero comics, especially in the unending soap opera of it all. When here's going to be the happy ending for Bruce and Selina. I mean, can you say anything about how you're dealing with that idea of, can a wedding be a completely happy occasion in a comic and it be a satisfying dramatic experience?
Well, I mean, the unique thing about Batman Bruce Wayne is happiness is not a happy ending for him. Bruce Wayne thrives on pain. That's what motivates him. And that's what writers have always emphasized, is that if we give him more pain, he becomes a more motivated character. So when you give him happiness, you're giving him conflict. Like most characters, you give them happiness, you give them satisfaction, you give them boringness. But the happiness of Bruce Wayne, that's conflict. That's something he hasn't had before. That's something you haven't seen before. So I do think it is possible to obtain that. That said, it's also possible to go the exact other way, where if he's utterly happy, you can take it away from him. So it could go either way. Either way, it's going to be something you've never seen. It's going to be something crazy, and the stakes are going to be super high. And I think whatever happens at 50, 51 is going to be insane.
Joelle, to kick the not spoiler but spoiler question for you, I always love to ask artists, what's the most difficult thing you've had to draw since working on this book?
It was keeping the Robin straight, I think, in the beginning. I was never a Robin person.
Yeah.
I'm warming on them, but yeah, keeping them straight. I'd have a whole board written this is what this guy looks like, and this guy looks like this. I'm getting it.
It was amazing because she gave them all different faces and different. They weren't just generic white dudes 7 times.
Yeah. This one's a slight bit shorter.
And it fit the character. I didn't think that's what she'd say. That's amazing.
Well, cool guys. I think that does well for me. Have a great rest of the show. I'm sure I'll see you guys around.